Hi, I'm Angela Mia Della Vega, sculptor, mom, daughter of Kathleen J. Smith, a wonderful teacher and encourager who planted the seed within me very early on for the love of art that I have.
Good morning, Mother. I love you. Come on, let's go sculpt.
I work in Dallas, Texas, and it's hot right now. So I'm nice and cool here in my sanctuary, my wonderful studio. I feel so fortunate to be able to work in an at-home studio. My studio is actually in a back house behind our home. We live in an older part of Dallas, and this older community has unusually large back house garages. And so we transformed our back house garage into just this dreamy studio with skylights and a sink and high ceiling. And I cross my garden, my backyard, to go to work every day. I am truly surrounded by love. In the morning when I wake up, I walk out of my bedroom door into my butterfly garden. My daughter, a few years ago for Mother's Day, created this wonderful butterfly garden by asking her siblings to write things that they love about me on these beautiful little paper butterflies that she cut out. She hung all of them from a long string from the ceiling. These butterflies are just fluttering around in the hallway. I walk through them and just still feel the joy of this showing of love. Over time, of course, some of the butterflies have fallen, and I take the butterflies as they fall and put them in this precious little wooden box that one of my friends carved for me. So they're adding up into this little wooden box. It's a little treasure box of love. Before it was the butterfly garden, it was just a gallery hallway where we have at least two of my sculptures. Sometimes we swap them out, but we have two pedestals in there to showcase two sculptures at any time. Right now we have Lifter with Butterflies and Bloom. And I love this gallery hallway, not only because of the butterflies and the sculptures, but because I see beautiful flowers in the garden on both sides and this natural light that cascades in. And then I walk out these doors of the hallway into the garden and cross over the stone path to the back and walk into my studio. When I walk into the studio, I always say, "Good morning, Mother. I love you. Ready? Let's sculpt." And I think that I hear her responding. This is my precious mother, Kathleen J. Smith, a passionate teacher and encourager of the natural creativity of every student and child who was blessed to share life with her. So I grew up in this little town in western Pennsylvania, and we were right in the middle of the forest, actually, and in front of my home we had an extremely large pine tree. So my mother went into this pine tree and bared the trunk of its branches to just above her head, so that those branches then above her head could still cascade to the floor and create this evergreen wall around her inside. And so this became my studio. She put a little table and chairs inside and a shovel, and I could just part those branches and go inside, and they'd close behind me so no one could see me when I was in my secret studio. And in that studio, I would dig up the Pennsylvania clay earth with my shovel and sculpt little creatures, little monsters, and set them around on display inside of my pine tree studio. My mother was my initial inspiration, and I still feel inspiration through her spirit every day. My inspiration continues now also through my children. just their ever-changing individuality. They're so different. I'm also quite mesmerized by the relationships that they have and getting to know the people they care about. I have found that I really love to be able to tell a story. So I think as a sculptor, I'm a storyteller. I find that oftentimes, even if I'm telling a very personal story, and I express that through a composition that makes sense to me in a private way, something that's quite miraculous, I think each time, is the way it translates into the story of someone else. They're able to adopt it as their own story. So I may be sculpting a personal challenge that I had and the way I was able to go through it and just sculpt that emotion of perseverance. For example, Lifter with Butterflies is the sculpture of a little girl being uplifted by this wonderful supportive team of butterflies. That really is because I went through a personal time of strife, and I had a wonderful support team of family and friends, and they carried me to my personal freedom and absolute joy. So I see myself in that sculpture. I see my wonderful daughters who are working so hard to realize their potential and reach a point of real individual freedom as well. And it's just fantastic the way so many other people have been able to see their daughters in the sculpture, or a mother or a grandmother, or there are husbands who have seen their precious wives in the little girl being raised by these butterflies. That brings to mind too, and I want to recommend, actually, there is a stand-up comedian, Hannah Gatsby. She's Australian, and she does a wonderful 1-hour special called Nanette. She talks about how her comedy is her art and how she came to a point of realizing that she no longer could edit her self-expression. When she tells a story or one of her jokes, she finds that to get to the punchline, she might leave you hanging, but she doesn't finish the story. And she realizes that to be a true artist and be true to her craft, she needs to complete the story. With Lifter with Butterflies, I really can relate to what she's saying, because when I sculpted this little girl being lifted by so many butterflies, for me, I just couldn't stop adding the butterflies. I just felt such encouragement during this difficult time, and these butterflies were so powerful and so uplifting. And when I got to the point of the sculpture being in the foundry and seeing it in bronze, and I sculpted it life size originally, so it was very large and a lot of butterflies, I thought, oh no, this is too much. This is too much. And I told the patineurs there, let's calm this thing down. Let's mute it. Let's subdue this. Let's make it all monochromatic. I want to calm this thing down. And they all turned to me and they said, why would you do that? You saw this in full color. You wanted to make all of these butterflies brightly colored and show in a unique way each one. So with their encouragement, I continued to need encouragement apparently. I did create the sculpture in full color, and it has just, in my opinion, carried the story of true recovery, we have to be our truest selves, let all of our true colors show. So that's the story of the sculpture, and I think that's why the story of Lifter with Butterflies resonates with other people. Many of the sculptures I do are commissioned works. When that happens, I love being able to go meet my subject, who is most often a child. I adore sculpting children. So I will go to the home of the grandparent or the parent who is commissioning me and meet the child. I love to get to know the child, so I try to spend as much time as possible so that I can really know the inner beauty of that child, so I can find a way to sculpt his or her inner beauty through his or her outer beauty. So really knowing and loving my subjects is extremely important, because if not, I feel like I can't develop a composition that tells a true love story about them. When it is not a commissioned sculpture and the idea is more of a vision that I have that's really trying to tell more of a personal story, I will look for models who I feel embody the story I'm trying to tell. One of my recent sculptures is called Bridge of Brotherhood, and this sculpture is of 3 darling little boys sitting on a bridge together. They are of different race, and yet they are there like brothers, just in wonderment, looking at the beauty of the sky and sitting on this bridge that they've made together. It looks like they grabbed some branches and twined them together. In the rocks beneath, they have all these delightful little creatures. Another sculpture that I did recently during the pandemic, in fact, is called Sunshine Every Day. I borrowed the daughter of a friend. She was so precious and exuberant, and I thought she showed all the positivity and hope we could possibly want during such a frightening, dark time. And to help move the dark away, I sculpted her like the sunshine and standing on a rainbow. And even though she's being windblown from this tremendous storm from behind, she is bravely facing the sun, embracing the sun. Her dress lifts up to reveal the faces of all of these sunflowers and daisies that are also bravely defying the wind. There's a book called Start With Why, one that I feel has had such an impact on me as a mother and as a working professional artist as well. Something the author said in there that had such a profound impact on me was that he said, people don't buy what you make, and they don't buy how you make it, they buy why you make it. I know why I sculpted Bridge of Brotherhood. I know why I sculpted Sunshine Every Day. I know why I sculpted Lifter with Butterflies. And I believe that because I knew so solidly why, all of the parts came together and I followed my emotions, and the development was just natural from there. I believe that the story comes forward and can be easily read and adopted by anyone else for that reason. So when I have a model in the studio, which is a real privilege, because oftentimes when I do travel and meet my models outside of Dallas, I need to take my camera and my measuring tape and my calipers and take many measurements and many photos there. And then I work entirely off of the measurements in the photos. When I am fortunate enough to have a model here in the studio, especially if they're a child, we have a lot of fun. We will work with music. And so we make an agreement beforehand. Okay, I get to sculpt you for 2 songs, and then you can take a break for 1 song. And so they usually find that pretty agreeable, and we'll get a lot of work done that way. My daughter, Ariana, when she was 14, modeled for a sculpture called Summer. She was in a position that was maybe not too challenging. However, she gave me only 90 seconds each time to work. had to work on it. But now she's 25 years old and I'm having such a wonderful time sculpting her in another composition. She's lying on her side and she just has this wonderful maturity and understanding and appreciation, not only for me and for my work and what she's doing with me there, but she's got a lot of confidence about where she is in her own life now. And I'm just having such a wonderful time getting that to shine through in already her pose. I feel like she's got a very easy pose, not just because she's lying on her side, but she's at ease. So I'm really excited to continue with the development and show the difference between my daughter at age 14 and now my daughter at 25. So this is, of course, a very personal story. We're going to call this sculpture Parsley because my daughter loves to sprinkle fresh parsley on just about anything that can handle parsley. She loves the way it takes the bitterness away. And as we looked into parsley more, it looks like there is some pretty ancient old language and symbolism that goes along with parsley, that people who would consume parsley would eradicate the bitterness from within. That's more along the personal storyline of her comfort with where she is now in her life. For the process, I build a sculpture first out of aluminum wire. The aluminum wire is a lot more malleable than you would think, even though this is strong. So I build a kind of a skeleton form out of aluminum wire first, and then I have my wonderful clay and my turkey warmers that I keep at a nice, consistent warmth. And once I have the armature built in the wire, I add on the clay. And when the sculpture is completely finished in clay, here you can see, in fact, I have the head of one of the sculptures that I did of a 7-year-old little boy. This is Kellen, and this is the finished clay. I will cover the clay with silicone to make the mold, and then on top of the silicone, I'll use a paste called Freeform, which creates a hardening protective mother mold. When the mold is finished, we open it, release the clay from within, close the mold up. There's a mold right here. You can see the two halves of the mold. Close that mold up, and we send the mold to the foundry, which is where they do the full casting process. For my materials, I highly recommend Sculpture Depot in Loveland, Colorado. They make my plastilina oil-based clay there, and I like to work with medium consistency tan. They also sell every kind of tool. I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store when I go there. Philippe and Charisse Ferreau of PSF Studios have tutorials and in videos, books that are fantastic. Philippe Ferreau is a master sculptor. I highly recommend their tutorials and their books for any beginner or honestly any professional sculptor as well. I certainly have had a lot of challenges over the years as a working sculptor, and even though I may not be excited about the challenge in the beginning because it feels like an obstacle or even a setback, I have found that I really learn from my challenges. I'm having a great time with the challenge of creating jewelry. That's something that's new for me, to think in such a small scale and how something might be worn comfortably on the ear. And I'm wearing one of my necklaces right now, trying to work through the kinks and make sure it hangs just right. So I have a delightful little butterfly and little girl necklace on that is entirely a new field for me. One particular challenge from which I know I grew a lot was sculpting the trophy for the Women That Soar awards show. Gina Grant, the CEO and founder of Women That Soar organization, commissioned me to sculpt the award for the honorees. And these honorees are women who are just incredible, amazing women who have made such sacrifices or great strides in life to really make an impact in their society, in the lives of others. They're really heroes, and they're all women. So when Gina asked me to create the sculpture, I did a number of sketches and finally sent her my final sketch. And even when I sent it to her, I thought, oh no, this isn't going to be right. I'm a realist sculptor, so I had designed a realistic looking trophy. She responded quite quickly, which is her style, and she said, Angela, this just isn't going to work. Keep trying. I need to be able to see myself in this trophy. And Gina is a Black woman. She said, I want a woman in Asia to see herself in the trophy. I want a woman in South America, the Middle East. I want every woman of every size and every age all over the world to be able to see herself in this trophy. So, and of course, the drawing I had done was a very, very specific woman of a specific type. So I went back to my drawing pad and worked it, and eventually came up with what became the trophy. And here is the sketch. You can see the original sketch and then the final sketch. And here is the trophy. And I love this trophy. And I do see my daughters and my friends and Gina and myself and my mother in this sculpture. And I think I see every woman artist in this sculpture as well, who is just spreading her wings and showing her inner beauty, her inner strength through her unique expression.